here's the difference. I've interviewed a lot of the mobsters out there, whether it's Sammy Gravano, Collada, Franzese, a lot of them I've sat down with them. And the attorneys, Oscar Goodman, who's the legendary attorney for Spalatra and a lot of the mobsters, the difference between what happens to politicians and mobsters is every one of them did time, okay, for their crime.
Yeah.
The part where voters, both on the left, right, and the middle, are losing trust in the system is because when's the last time a big politician did time? And so the audience kind of sits around and says, I guess they didn't do anything corrupt because I don't see them doing any kind of time. So when is the last time we had the highest level of politician that did time for doing extortion or corruption or anything that you're talking about?
It's been a very long time. And part of the problem is that they get to write their own rules. Now, corporate executives don't get to write their own laws. School teachers don't get to write their own laws. I don't get to write my own laws. You don't. But members of Congress do. And so they know where those lines are, and they are able to engage in behaviors that if the rest of us were to do, they would be considered extortive practices. So, for example, if a corporate executive tried to leverage their position for their own personal benefit, in other words, they were the head of, let's say, General Electric, and as part of their official duty as CEO, they tried to leverage taking an action or not taking an action so they could derive a personal benefit, they would at a minimum be in trouble with the SEC and probably be in trouble with federal prosecutors as well, because that's against the law. That happens in Congress all the time. Why? Because Congress has written the rules in such a way to where they do not apply to their behavior. One of my earliest books that I wrote about corruption involved insider trading on the stock market by members of Congress. And a lot of people were outraged to learn this, that if a corporate executive trades their own company's stock with what's called material non-public information, in other words, they know something that nobody else knows as a function of working for that company, so they trade on it and profit, they're going to go to jail. And lots of people have done that, from secretaries to corporate CEOs. That law does not apply to members of Congress. So if you're the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, for example, and you know for a fact that a certain defense bill that's highly contested is going to pass, and it's going to mean huge sums of money for Boeing or huge sums of money for another defense contractor, you are, as a senator, allowed to buy and sell stock in that company. I would argue that's non-public material information that's going to affect the stock price. And yet, for years, members of Congress were exempt from that law. It was only when we called it out, I did a book that became a bestseller. We did a segment on 60 Minutes that caused a big uproar. Did they pass a bill called the Stock Act to technically declare that it's illegal for members of Congress to engage in insider trading on the stock market? The problem is, they later went back and watered down that bill, so that bill really does not have much meaning anymore. But my point is, to answer your question, is the reason very few powerful political figures go to prison is because they get to write their own rules, and they know where the lines are, and the lines are very different for them. They're much more narrow for us than they are for them. That's why you don't see a lot of people going to jail in positions of power.